Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahar, and Charlie broke YouTube yesterday, ladies and gentlemen. He uploaded a video called I'm Not Turning It Back On, and I thought for a second, whoa, the website wasn't even working well yesterday. I think Down Detector had like 400,000 goddamn results about it, like just people reporting, YouTube is down! You tried watching a video on your mobile, it was just constant looping, the videos wouldn't even load up, error 404, errors that I've never even seen before. Started popping. Obviously, I think somebody at YouTube probably pushed something wrong to the server and they scrambled to fix it. But I'm going to use the funny example and say that, Moist Critical ended up taking down the actual site very briefly. But why was this a situation that kind of broke the internet yesterday? It's actually something that I kind of want to talk about because I have been seeing this happen so much over the course of like years, just to see YouTube evolve, and how people accept things. Like it used to be back in the day that taking a sponsor was like a grave sin. It used to be back in the day that if you were a live streamer on like Justin TV or anything of that nature, if you took even donations from your actual community, that would just be one of the worst sins you could ever do on YouTube, on the internet in general. And now it's like, in order to make it sustainable for the average creator, for the average person, or somebody starting out, they really do rely on Patreons, donations, and everything. But you know who's exempt from that list? Some of the biggest players in the game. People that are making millions, hundreds of thousands of views and everything on and so forth. Now, the thing is, I'm always one of those people where when it comes to greed, by instance, I think greed is one of the worst sins that you can have. Greed, what is it? Gluttony almost in a lot of ways, right? Where you just constantly have to have more and more and more, and you just can never be happy with what you have. Now, Charlie showcased his earnings yesterday, and for YouTube, it was like $35.8 million in the lifetime. Now, obviously, that includes everything. Watch page ads, shorts ads, supers and gifts, affiliate programs, and connected stores. And if you add in like Twitch, I think it's like $4 to $5 million. So overall, the guy made 40 million, which, pales in comparisons, I'm pretty sure, to his like Hunger Games royalty checks. Obviously, this is some good, you can buy a few cartons of eggs, if you will, in today's day and age, but that's not a small amount of money, okay? It's a pretty good chunk of change to have. It's generational wealth. It's life-changing money. It's money that, if you have it, you probably couldn't burn through every single bit of it. Your kids could probably not burn through every single bit of it, and your grandkids could probably not burn through every single bit of it. Unless, of course, inflation takes the most sky-high fucking route ever, or you give birth to like absolute degenerate offspring that will just burn through your fucking wealth pool by buying the most obnoxiously stupid shit. Now, one of the things that I've always admired about Charlie Asmongold, and really it's one of the things that I feel kind of tethers, me to the earth and a lot of stuff, is that, at the end of the day, these are people that can make a substantial amount of cash, and ultimately it never really changes their life. For me, I was happy when I made substantially less, and I was still happy when I made money. Now, money is never something that makes you more happier than anything. If you're somebody that's happy within the means that you live in, meaning that you're happy with the people around you. For me, dude, all I love to do is maybe buy an extra game console every year and play a couple video games. For me, that's where my luxuries sort of stop, okay? So making any amount of money, even if it's like a fraction of this, is already winning. To give you an idea, guys, ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that I read from time to time is how much an average American makes. So apparently, according to the National Library of Medicine and the Social Security Administration, the lifetime earnings of a U.S. citizen over the age of 50 from 20 to 69, it depends, right? It could be like 1.85 million or 1.1 million for women, right? 1.85 for men, 1.1 for women. So obviously, when you look into, again, things like, educational background, if you get like graduate degrees, obviously you're earning up to like 3.05 gross, 2.68 net, and for women it's 1.86 at gross, 1.69 at net, okay? So yeah, it's still substantially more money than, people who work their ass off every day and come home. And literally, when I see any streamer on the internet bitch about their life, like, oh, streaming is so fucking tough on me, man. I gotta make a video every now and then. It's always like, shut the fuck up. You have one of the most cushiony lives imaginable, and you're still somehow bitching about it. Now, for anybody that's in like that mid-tier, like lower tier creator, and again, I don't want to say these things to be mean about it, but if you're somebody that's like a average content creator, somebody that, it really is, you're kind of living paycheck to paycheck doing this, and or maybe you have some amount of money to save. Taking donations is obviously something that is a pretty like accepted thing these days. It's the only way for this entire platform to be sustainable. If you're not somebody that, I guess at this point is streaming almost every day, taking in some donations or subscribers, then yeah, making sure that your rent payment or mortgage payment or, paying for your groceries is going to be fucking difficult. But not when you're at the top 1% of content creators. Now, Charlie showed this amount of money, which obviously is pretty mouthwatering to a lot of people, but it's not surprising, okay? Charlie's been somebody who's at the top of his game, and I'm somebody that's been watching him for quite a long time, even before I actually ever really made content. He was really around on YouTube for a long time, and I think one of the videos that kind of blew him into like, fame was like being on Ray William Johnson. He was playing like QWOP or something. And even before then, he was like making fucking Gears montages. I'm somebody that has watched him from the beginning, and he's somebody that has absolutely been donating a chunk of his money, especially at the beginning, primarily to charities. Now, what Charlie decided to do after showcasing this money is that before he ever uploaded this video, he showcased that he was turning off donations and whatnot to his channel, right? Anything fan-funded. Not necessarily advertisements or channel sponsorships of anything of that nature, but generally the ability for the viewer to give the creator money. Now, honest to God, like to me, when I look at the history of YouTube content creation, it used to be a grave sin, like I said, in order to take a sponsorship. It used to be a grave sin in order to take money from your fans. But now it's for a lot of people in that, day-to-day grind, it is the only sustainable way to keep this a actual career path. But obviously for Charlie, is like he felt a little bit bad. Now, I saw some pretty dog shit takes about this, so I want to kind of read them really quickly. Gets insanely rich, keeps it a secret for many years. Once he knows he's set for life, reveals he's actually a millionaire. The guy acted like it's a Machiavellian plan. Like, bro, if you couldn't figure out the fact that one of the largest creators on YouTube, consistently wasn't already fucking rich or a multimillionaire, it's like going to like a fucking sports game and looking at like one of the biggest players on the field for like one of the biggest teams in the entire brackets and thinking, man, is that guy rich? That actor that I'm seeing in this big Hollywood production, I wonder if that guy's actually rich, I'm beginning to suspect, I'm sorry, like, I guess for some people, they really have been hitting the stupid branch on the way down on every single fucking step. Guys, I feel bad. Disables monetization to make it look like he's a saint, which proves no matter what you do on the internet, you can't make everyone happy. So at some point, you have to realize you can either crash and burn or just stop giving a fuck. And usually stopping giving a fuck is the best way to live. But to go back to the point, obviously there's a lot of misinformation spread about this. People really started going at Charlie's ass. I'm glad he finally realized after making 40 million, it didn't feel right. Incredible bravery. Now, the thing about it is, he's not turned off the ads on his channel. It literally is just fan funding and donations. And the thing about it is, it's something that I do tend to agree. Now, I don't know if you guys have been noticing it, especially if you're like a creator. You probably notice that YouTube has been pushing you a lot in order to take like memberships and donations and any of that, not donations necessarily, but making like members only content. And I don't know how valuable it is. Again, I only do YouTube necessarily because like it is just a fun thing at the end of the day. Like it is just a place for me to, that's why my videos are kind of just like me talking to the camera and having a good time. But I've never been one to necessarily jump into the nitty gritty of the algorithm, so to speak. I mean, I understand it, obviously doing it for so long, but one of the things that YouTube has pushed is something about like members only content where like, they want to get people into like this members only gated community for themselves, which I guess maybe YouTube's trying to like cash in onto the Patreon market in some capacity. But for me, I just don't understand the concept of making content on the internet and amassing, a following and then immediately putting up content that is paid paywalled, even if it's a limited time paywall, so that most of your obvious fan base can't watch the footage or watch the content until you decide to somewhat release it down the road. I feel like putting up artificial monetary roadblocks is so pointless, because ultimately at the end, I would say instead of being a member to my channel or donating to me, it might be better for you to just buy YouTube Premium so that you can help the entire YouTube ecosystem and get more benefits onto your account on the platform globally, as opposed to just one channel on the internet. Now, it's something that I obviously understand, like fans love to support content creators. There's almost like a parasocial, like sort of hook that people put into their audience where I guess it's like, hey, you know, supporting me is cool. You're part of this community, part of a family. But ultimately, at the end, you know, if you're a top tier content creator, especially somebody at the levels of Moist Critical, which again, he's not even the largest. You've got people far larger than him, like Asmongold, for instance. You want to talk about like really, really effective monetization of your YouTube platform? You're probably looking at tech channels like Linus, for instance, where it's just done at a far more efficient and much more grand level than you can imagine, right? When you start to see content creators have like teams or just content creators that are amassing a massive amount of viewership, it really should not be a shock to you that they're living far better. They're earning far more than most people could ever imagine. It's kind of like looking at the entertainment industry and looking at somebody making like $50-60 million on a contract and going, whew, that is more money than I will ever see in my life. And it makes no sense to think, let me give that person $20, $50, or $100. It's one of the things where I 100% vehemently agree with Charlie, and I feel like the only people that are getting mad about this are probably individuals who are also top streamers as well that love that parasocial hook where it's like, give me your Twitch Primes, give me, I don't know if YouTube has an equivalent YouTube Prime thing, but, you know, give me your Twitch Primes, give me donations, let's run sub marathons. One of the goofiest things that I've ever seen is when like super large streamers run like subathons, where again, it's mostly just boiling down to e-begging in front of their audience to run these sub trains, when really subathons are mostly meant for like, you know, the average content creator who literally is doing this almost paycheck to paycheck. For them, it's literally, hey, let me spend like 4 or 5 a week of making content, being on stream, being the professional bozo that I am. Because at the end of the day, every single one of us on YouTube, regardless of what your ego says or not, we are all just fucking clowns, okay? We are all clowns that got supremely lucky doing what we do on the internet. Simple as that. And whatever money we do make, no matter how literal or small, is something that we should always be completely fucking thankful for. And, you know, ultimately, the end, it's never the audience's responsibility to provide a living for the actual content creator. At the end of the day, if you can't make it work, in my opinion, without like, you know, if you can't make it work on your own, this probably isn't the place for you. And again, if, you know, you are somebody that's sitting there and you are streaming and earning donations, there's a big difference between the average content creator that needs the donation very clearly to pay their rent versus obviously guys like Charlie that are earning millions of dollars a year. You know, even somebody like me, I'm not anywhere near like Charlie's, I would say, like viewership or any of that stuff. But even for me, you know, the earnings are in the 6 to 7 figures. So it's like, you know, if you're ever wondering, Muda, can I give you the money? You don't really ever need to. In fact, if anything, I'm probably the one that is least needing of money, okay? Generally speaking, you know, we've earned enough money on this platform in order to invest it properly, in order to make sure it lasts longer than we probably ever will, okay? Unless, you know, there's some severe financial fuck-ups on our end, which is not the audience's responsibility. You know, again, like I said, like I showed you earlier, you know, when you look at the average American salary, the average American makes $1 to $2 million throughout the course of their life. And for the average content creator, I will tell you right now, especially the largest content creators, they've cleared that amount of money probably in about a year, maybe less than a year, to be real with you. And to see people complain about that, it's one of the reasons why, like, I was really on the crypto scam ass, especially with some really large content creators like a few years ago, mostly because I knew how much I made, I knew how much these people made, and they were still willing to scam their audience with crypto scams. Even though, if you looked at their average AdSense earnings, just the money they made through the course of their lifetime, there would be no reason for them to scam their audience other than pure greed and pure gluttony, just pure constant need for money. You know, ultimately, the end, ladies and gentlemen, Charlie kind of did a soft flex, but ultimately, he really did expose what is a huge, I guess, unknown thing in the creator economy. That, yes, the largest content creators are fucking hella loaded. There's a reason why people like Shaquille O'Neal are salivating at looking at some streamers and how much they fucking make. Because even if you take out fan funding, the amount of money made on ad sales, the amount of money made on corporate sponsorships is fucking insane, okay? It is what it is. But ladies and gentlemen, that's really what I wanted to say. I wanted to add into this a little bit because it's something that I've seen for God knows how long. You know, I've seen this platform and the online space evolve. I've kind of just grown up with it, you know? Like seeing us go from like, you know, getting a donation is such a sin to, you know, running entire subathons on our audiences is wild to see. But again, my real issue, and I think Charlie's real issue, and I think most people's real issue, is when you see people at the top kind of like pretend to be in the same financial situation as their fans, or people that, you know, kind of hide the fact that ultimately they are substantially far more well off than their audiences will ever be, and still constantly fucking begging for money and constantly trying to harness those prime subs. If you want to donate money, donate to a good charitable cause, okay? A lot of people in the world that need good food. There's a lot of people in the world that are war-torn right now that need your assistance and aid. There's a lot of people in the world that just need assistance, and you might as well donate to an actual charity that will give money to people that need it. Or you can always donate that money to a streamer that is not as large as somebody like Moist Critical or somebody like me even, right? Even though I'm not fucking large in any capacity, but you don't have to give money to any of us when in reality there's a lot more content creators in the middle of the road, people that only ever upload once a month, people that, you know, literally stream to, you know, the hundreds of people that they are thankful for. But, you know, those are the people that need the financial assistance the most. Really, you should be seeking some of those content creators out, seeing if you enjoy their content. And if you are willing to support them financially, then those are the people that obviously deserve that support the most. Not the fucking streamers at the top that have already made their stacks of cash and continue to make it. But yeah, that's all I really wanted to say. Anyways, a lot of content coming out towards gaming stuff, and you know, Microsoft Windows just turned every computer into an AI system, so I want to see how that train wreck goes too. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.